You might have seen there's this big New York Times story today, big story, very important story, about how the leading Republican presidential candidate, Donald Trump, and Republicans more broadly, have this plan that they want to put in place if the Republican Party wins the presidency in 2024. They're calling it Project 2025 because this is a plan that's supposed to go into effect upon the inauguration of Donald Trump in 2025. Either Trump or some other Republican president gets inaugurated in January of 2025, and Project 2025 thereby goes into effect. This plan is being coordinated by a right-wing think tank called the Heritage Foundation, and it is a plan to radically change the form of governance that we have in the United States so as to concentrate all the power of the government in the hands of a single leader. Quote, our current executive branch was conceived of by liberals. What's necessary is a complete system overhaul. Quote, what we're trying to do is identify the pockets of independence inside the U.S. government and seize them. Seize them so there won't be any more pockets of independent power outside the power that is held by the president. Now, as I said, they want this to be Donald Trump. They want him to be the guy in whose hands all this power is concentrated. But they say they would plan to do this with any Republican president. The plan is to change the structure of the U.S. government so the next president, the next Republican president, will take direct control of all state power. He would, for example, take over all federal law enforcement and run that directly for his own benefit through the DOJ. There would be no more independence of federal law enforcement. The next president would take control of private business in this country for his own benefit through the powers of the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. The next president would revive an old and, I should say, illegal practice called impoundment, which would basically take away the fundamental powers of Congress and put that power, too, in Trump's hands. Again, identify the pockets of independence and seize them. So instead of checks and balances and limited government, we'd have more of a strongman system of government. We'd have a single leader with all the power of the state personally arrogated to him. No other part of the government, no other thing in the country at all would be allowed to constrain him. That sounds nice. It at least sounds simple. That said, it is obviously fundamentally opposite to the whole idea of why we exist as a country in the first place. And I think it's no surprise to see an article like this, to see reporting like this in the Times today. I think everybody sort of knows that this is where the American political right, where the Republican Party has been heading in the Trump era. But still, I think the reason this reporting today is getting so much attention and causing so much consternation is because, however much this might be the dream of the Trump era right wing in American politics, for the most part, the American people really don't want this. And so it's one thing to sort of see it hinted at or to feel like this is the kind of system they'd like to replace our system with. It's another thing to see it in black letter print, right? To find out that they've put a name on it, that it's a project that has an implementation date and they're getting it ready. I mean, in general, by and large, the American people don't want to live under a single leader who has concentrated all power in his own hands and nothing constrains him and nothing else matters other than his own whims and preferences and grudges. You don't want to live in a country under a leader like that who's a good guy, let alone a leader like that who's a bad guy. I mean, you don't have to be a civics dork to know that you don't want that. and I think by and large, the American people really don't.